Welcome to Pain with a Purpose, the podcast where we dive deep into the stories of resilience, redemption, and purpose. I'm your host, Chris Woods, and each week we will sit down with guests who have faced challenges with substance abuse, mental health, and recovery. But we're not just dwelling on the past. Instead, we'll explore what keeps them driven towards a purposeful life. Join us as we navigate the journey from pain to a purpose. All right, season 1, episode 2. We got Jonathan Hunter. You didn't know that was coming.
No.
Thanks for coming out, dude. Some might know you as Jake the Barber. Some might know you as Jake Hunter. Some might not even know you and just came across maybe your Instagram or something of that nature. I know you as Jake Dallas, and that's kind of transformed into what it is today, I think, but we'll get into all that. So, yeah, welcome out, dude.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. This is cool. It's a great setup.
Absolutely, man.
Yeah.
I don't even know when it really came to be a thought, really. I was just like, I think I got to do something, you know? So Jake Hunter, right? How did we get to talk a little bit about like what, how we transformed from like Jake Hunter to Jake Dallas, and then we'll dive into all that other stuff afterwards.
We got a lot of ground to cover, but I'd say, normal upbringing, right? Normal kid. We met when I was probably 11, 12. We played sports together, maybe younger, honestly. So, we, how we grew up, it was just sports and everything. And, obviously drugs, got involved in the drugs. That's why we're here, right? Pain with a purpose.
Yeah.
But yeah, the drugs, happened. I remember, it's crazy when I would speak at meetings and stuff early on, like this is like a joke that I would tell. You're in the joke, right? Like I was 15 or 16. I think I was 16 and I was withdrawing for the first time.
Oh my God.
And I didn't even know.
I know where this is going.
I didn't even know that I was withdrawing, actually. You came over to my house, my mom's house, and you were hanging out with my brother. Like, we were all there, Frankie, everyone. I was laying on the couch. I was sick. And you gave me a piece of something, and you were like, here, bro. Like, if I take it, I thought I had Lyme disease because we were out drinking in the woods and all. And then I'm, shivering, sick, can't eat, can't sleep. And you're like, yo, whatever, here, boom, midday. And I feel great. I take it. I'm like, wow, I feel amazing. I think that this drug cures Lyme disease. And I remember I was like, holy shit, I just, we cured something crazy. This is miraculous.
Yeah.
But yeah, we got, we have some time in for sure. Full circle, you took me to like some of my first meetings ever when I was 21. I remember you got involved with like the programs and stuff early on, and I was still trying to figure it out kind of my own way. But yeah, like normal upbringing, normal party stuff until the drugs, alcohol, whatever your twist is, became, it consumed us, it controlled us. Me and you, we stayed down though through most of it. Yeah. And then we had a few falling outs, but we always were, and then even to today, which is crazy, like to this day. From normal upbringing to drug use to recovery to life outside of recovery, so from Jake Hunter to Jake Dallas to Jake the Barber, what I mean? It's so funny.
Yeah, I mean, dude, it's weird that you bring that up, right? Because I was at like lunch, right? Like I was at lunch every day. And I was like, why is it that every day I feel like I have the flu? Mm-hmm. All these other kids are like running around. Yeah. And we weren't, we were high schoolers.
Kids though, yeah.
And, somewhere along the line, I don't know where it happened, but it was like, no, I'm withdrawing.
It dawned upon you that like, wow, I have a chemical addiction. I need this drug. If I don't have this drug, I feel like shit and I feel sick. I remember you had a game. You were a goalie like senior year, junior year, you had a game, and me and you left school to go try to find drugs, and we couldn't get drugs, and we both took a nap in your car.
Yep.
And you went and played a soccer game, and I just sat there and I was like, I don't know how he's doing that. He's crazy.
Yeah.
You were always like involved with sports. That's one thing you did. I was always like, yeah, I'm just a full-time drug addict. You were a full-time drug addict, part-time student, part-time athlete.
It was so wild. And like, we're going to jump into all that, right? Where it's like, we lived such a crazy life early on. Not that it's, you can't even like associate it with like being cool.
No, but
like
wild.
You know what I mean? Wild. Like talk about like some wild situations, some crazy situations. But that was like our normal.
Yeah.
Right. Like, come what, 4th, 5th period, like we were scheming, right? If we didn't have something lined up, like we were scheming. It's so wild to think back. So yeah. All right. So we can actually dive more into that, right? So as far as like being in high school and, like for everything that we're talking about, right? Like we were fully addicted in high school. Which a lot of people, I don't really understand that, because like to the outside, especially like our parents looking in, they had no clue what was really going on.
No. I think because you and I, and this is no excuse, but you and I always had a connection to older kids. Always, whether it was your older brothers, stepbrothers, older kids. Me and you always hung out with older kids. We got exposed to stuff early on. That's no excuse, right? Because you can be around whatever and still not do anything. But you and I were addicted to drugs early on. We weren't just trying drugs, to the point where, treatment was a high school thing.
Yep.
Maintenance was a high school thing. I was prescribed Suboxone in high school.
Oh my God, I forgot that.
I was prescribed Suboxone. People didn't even, they thought I was lying. I'm like, yeah, I have to take this medicine. They're like, what are you talking about? I'm like, yeah, you don't withdraw when you take it.
I remember the first time I heard it, I was like, what?
Yeah, you're like, what is that? Yeah, I remember. Like I had like a golden ticket. People were like, I need some of that strip, but it was high school, bro. It was, and then when we graduated, people were going to jail from our crew. People were going to rehab. People were getting sober, halfway sober. You know what I mean? And it was kind of just, into like early 20s. And that's when there was like crossroads that were met. And some people didn't make it, and other people made it or arrived to, treatment and relapsed or whatever. But it's funny because, in our early 20s, you and I, we both got clean, sober, whatever you want to call it, in our early 20s, which is such a blessing. And now our lives are just,
yeah.
And we'll touch on all of that. Yeah, we'll touch on all of that. But I think you and I are pretty blessed because, let's just face it, at some way, shape or form, or at some point, we were going to be addicted to something, just because like that's just how we're cut, right? It's kind of nice that we got it over. I don't want to say over with, but we experienced enough early on that we didn't screw up, our lives that bad, and we have a chance to, every day, one day at a time, make it good. It's I know guys that are, lived a normal life or whatever, and they're in their 30s, 40s, getting, mixed up, and now like they're losing everything: their wife, their kids, their business.
It's like literally, it's like my biggest fear.
Yeah,
like,
that's horrifying. That's horrifying. Imagine being the mindset of 18 Chris at 30 something. Like, that's horrifying. With a car,
dude. I like with a car and a job. That.
Yeah,
I mean, because like the way that we run, right? Yeah, I'm burning every bridge.
And now you have.
I got credit.
You got credit. You have a paycheck, and you got a car, and you got a couple cars, and they're fast. And they're fast. Like, could you imagine being 18, Chris, with a fast car, a credit card, not even a job or a car, just credit.
Thank God I did
credit.
Thank God.
Yeah, no, for real.
But yeah, I mean, you talked about, like as far as like the withdrawal thing, right? It was so wild how it all kind of happened, right? Because fast forward to out of high school, right? And you talked about like there were some people that went to jail, there were some people that made it, there were some people that like we just actually stopped talking to.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's actually still people that are down there, right? That are still in Roxborough, Manioc doing the same stuff. But there's like two people, right? One had a nickname that I thought was his real name. And the other one went by Quiet, right? And I remember going in and out of treatment, right? And it wasn't until I actually went to sober living where I actually saw Quiet.
Yeah. Alex.
Yeah.
Alex.
And, he was like walking his dog. I was at like outside of a random meeting, and that's like, I needed something like that to turn the light on, right? Because when I saw Alex, I was like, where you been, dude? And he was like, where do you think they sent me?
Yeah.
And I was like, at that point in sober living in Bucks County, and I was like, shit, if Quiet can do it, right? Because there was a time where you were running with Quiet.
Yeah, and be normal.
He had his own house, he had a dog,
a career,
right? And I was like, how in the world is this possible? So I'm like a firm believer that like everything happens exactly how it's supposed to.
Divine timing, stars were aligned. Yeah. The
other one went by Jerry, not his name.
Yeah, right.
Not his name.
That's his middle name, right?
I think so.
Yeah. Yep.
But yeah, so I needed like something like that, right? And you touched on like me bringing you to your first couple meetings, right? And like I didn't stay sober or clean or any of that, right? Like I was just doing what they told me to do.
Yeah.
I think we were all just trying everything at that point. But then like the story kind of flipped a little bit, right? Because like if that was the case, right, and not that this is a competition, but like you're coming up on 10, right? I'm coming up on 10, but like you're ahead of me now, right? So like I went back out, you stopped and stay stopped. And I remember like going back out multiple times and like seeing you slowly but surely, like at the time didn't look like rebuilding your life.
Right.
You know what I mean? But I was like, Jake's doing what? He's working at a warehouse, labor. I was like, what? He's driving a beat up black Civic at this point?
Yeah. Life was funny, man.
And I was like, there's no way. Right. And I think we reconnected briefly at that time. And again, like another like hope shot for me where I was like, fuck, if Jake is like really humbling himself to do all this, it's like time for me to like put my, put some big boy pants on, right? And do this deal.
Yeah, but it's the people in front of us, right, that we don't even know. So when I was like, I really got to get my life together, my brother had like 10 days sober. And I was like, I was the one who was always telling him, you got to get it together. You're scaring me, And then
there was also a time where he was telling you.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That's when we were hiding it.
Right.
We were hiding it at that point.
When we were kids. Yeah. When we were, in our teens. But then I remember reaching out to you. I'm like, because you had like 90 days or something. You were like,
before I relapsed.
Right. And you were like, I'm speaking at this rehab. And you were like, you want to come? And I was like, sure. And then you brought me down to Stones. And then you had that surgery. And all you wanted to do was smoke a cigarette and feel drugs after they pumped you with drugs in there. I remember I brought you an e-cig, and then you just went MIA. And then you got sober after that. You were running around for a little bit. You were like a trash man or something. I don't even know. And you were like doing trash work.
I thought that was the pinnacle, brother.
Down in Kensington. And you were like grabbing dope while you were a trash man. And I was like, what the hell happened to Woods, dude? Like, I'm like, he was taking me to a meeting. Now he's like buying dope at work.
Yeah.
And, but it was a couple months, and then you were back and you were like better than ever. Never saw you more serious. Because even back then when you would bring me to your, my first couple meetings when you had like 90 days clean, you were still like 1 foot in, 1 foot out. And I remember I was so tired and I was like scared straight. I'm like, dude, I can't live like this anymore. I can't do it. And you were, you were very much sober, but you were still kind of like whatever. You were so serious when you came back, that was almost a decade ago, which is crazy.
It's so
crazy, dude.
Because again, like we'll revisit this, but like we both live a life that like we don't deserve.
No.
If like we're really going on with like the scales
fair,
here.
Yeah, if what's fair,
no way.
No.
And a lot of people don't understand that, right? Where it's like you can literally, it's written like in the promises, right? Like a life beyond your wildest dreams. Sounds so corny. But like if we're going off of like the damage that I did,
sure.
again, maybe that's why I
Yeah, I
had
mean,
this thought.
you in particular had 9 lives.
Yeah.
I don't know how
Yeah.
you made it. Yeah, you got out of every situation just about. You were
Got my mom's car stolen.
yeah,
Remember
probably
that?
got it back too.
I did.
You probably got it back.
I
Yeah,
did.
knowing you. Yeah, I mean, dude, you're 9 lives, bro. I've never seen any. I tell people all the time, like Woods back in the day would literally steal your wallet, help you look for it, find it with nothing in it, and then steal it again, and not even get in trouble for it. Someone
There's
else
literally still amends that I have to make.
Yeah, sure.
From those, like,
sure.
And I'm sure someone, if I forgot, again, I'm sorry, I will make it
we're
right,
getting
but
there.
some's going to reach out.
Sure.
And they'll be like, yo, and I'm like, got you.
I do owe you. Yeah, I definitely do. Yeah.
Yeah, so high school shortly thereafter was absolutely insane.
Yeah.
All right, so now we're talking about like early recovery, right? And like you for all hindsight's 2020, you were rebuilding your life slowly but surely. You were at the label company. You were, I don't know if it was printing, doesn't really matter, right? Yeah. But it definitely wasn't making great money.
Right.
But you were doing what you were doing. You actually got clean and sober, and you didn't go to sober living, which is still mind-boggling.
No, I didn't. Yeah, I just went to meetings. I went to treatment a couple times, so I knew what I had to do. Honestly, every time I went to treatment, I didn't want to do the meetings. I didn't want to go. I didn't want to do the extra work. I just felt like it was like homework and stuff. And the last time I went to treatment, I was fresh out of high school. But I heard enough. I heard the message at treatment. I heard what I had to do. I know what I had to do. I can't get out and smoke weed. I can't get out and just have a few drinks. I can't relearn, I can't reinvent the wheel here. So I knew what I had to do, and that was to abstain from everything. First and foremost, just not do any drugs, whether it was a maintenance drug or whatever. And number 2 was I had to start putting the work in. I didn't want to. I'm lazy naturally. I'm an addict. If it doesn't come to, getting one more, I'm lazy. So, I just started going to meetings. I hit up my brother. I was like, yo, what are you doing different? He's like, I'm going to meetings. And I was like, I was so sick for the first couple of days. I couldn't even read. I was like, dude, I can't even focus on a page. I need you to Google a meeting. I'm like, can I come to AA with you? He's like, why don't you just go to NA? Sent me a meeting. I went, and I was so sick in that meeting, but I just continued to go. I heard something. Thank God the stars were aligned. This kid was like my age. I thought like it was going to be some older guy. It was a young kid. And he was like, yo, this is what I did. This is what you got to do. Boom. I was like, oh, wow. Okay, cool. So I just continued to go. And then, I got a different job. I was working I want to say I was like doing painting or like.
That's right. You were doing painting.
For my uncle. And then I went, I got another job. And then, I'm the type of person that like, I'll get something and I'll like see that. And I'm like, this is what I'm doing forever. I'm going to maximize. What's the top salary? I'm going to reach that and I'm going to exceed that. And it's like, that's like settling, right? Like I settle. So I get this job and, now all of a sudden I care about my image. I'm getting fresh, dude. I'm going to H&M. I'm buying out the store.
Yeah.
I'm getting a fresh cut every week.
Against all odds.
H&M, Zara. Nah, Zara wasn't even a thing yet.
Yeah.
Express, and I'm spending the whole check. I'm getting cuts. And then I was getting a cut and Justin, dude who was cutting my hair at the time, was like, yo, you should cut hair. I think you'd be good at it. And I was like, okay. Because when you're that early on, you're so like mendable and moldable. And like, you'll just be like, okay, people tell you should do this. And you're like, okay, I will. So I started cutting hair and I could always draw. So naturally I picked it up kind of fast and I really liked it. And it's like one of those things where when you're like an addict, whether it's, whatever your twist is, when you're an addict and you like something, you're going all in. So I was all in. I was going to the events. I was going to classes. I was going to everything. And it just like picked up. I fell in love with it, you know, and luckily I was in early recovery. So I had plenty of people to cut, people that were coming in from, you know, the sober livings, and they don't got any money and they need haircuts. And like, you know how it is, dude. These guys, they get some Jordans, they get cuts, and they get vapes and energy drinks. And like, that's what they spend their money on. So I'm like, yo, I'll cut one of those costs for you. You can have haircuts for free. I just got to learn how to cut hair. So I'm cutting guys every week. I you know, and it was great. I had unlimited people. And then all of a sudden, you know, a year in, I like kind of knew what I was doing a little bit. And it was cool. So I, you know, recovery, it kind of like molded this like path for me in the barber world, because without that, it would have been really difficult. I wouldn't have just a plethora of people to cut.
Coming in. Yeah. You'd have anybody walking in, really.
Exactly. You have to wait for walk-ins. I had a network after work. You know what I mean? I go to meetings. And
just so happen to need a haircut.
They needed cuts because they don't got any money.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yo, whatever. And they're getting the cool styles and stuff, you know. I want a mohawk. I want the comb over with the line in it. I want, you know, and I'm like, all right, cool. This is giving me time. You know, I'm learning how to do this stuff. So it was, the stars were aligned for that career to really, really take place for me. I don't know. It didn't happen on purpose. This wasn't like I was like, this is what I want to do. It just happened.
Yeah.
It just happened, which is crazy.
I mean, and talking about like the shop that you were at, right? Like those guys were so supportive of everything that you were doing, right?
For sure.
Because not only did like I see you struggle, right? But we had been getting our hair cut there for years.
Yeah, Josh and
so
Tim.
They had seen us completely.
They knew me in grade school, and they knew I was messed up. You know, they knew you were messed up. They knew we were all messed up. And you know, I still have a great relationship. I still work with Josh and Tim. Like they're you know, family to me at this point. And it's crazy because they've known me longer as being clean than they did when I was messed up. You know, so like to think, you know, for them to they that's all they know me as now, is just like not using drugs. Yeah. You know?
Yeah.
Which is nuts.
So not using drugs brings up a really good point. If you like what we're talking about, like, comment, subscribe. On Instagram, Pain W Purpose. We'll put it up for you. Really cool here. On YouTube, Pain with a Purpose Podcast, and Apple Podcast and Spotify, Pain with a Purpose. Love the support. Need the support to keep it going. You know, and we're gonna keep rocking out with it. So yeah, I mean, the men's club is great, right? Yeah. Tim's great. Yeah. I don't think anybody really has a bad thing to say about the men's club. You know, I think like, and it also talks like not just like any barber can get into the men's club, right? To like really what they did for you was huge.
Sure,
right?
They gave me a chance for sure. They took a chance on me.
Absolutely,
yeah.
So yeah, all right. So barbering took off, right? Never got into the female hair. Never did the perms and all that stuff.
You know, I always left that open, maybe for the future, but I just like to cut. That's it. I just like to cut, and it's like I'm like a speed guy. I like to cut fast. I just don't have the patience to sit there and,
dude,
you know.
I mean, remember when we would get there and we would just wait?
Yeah. Different now. It's appointment. It's appointment only.
Thank God.
Yeah.
I mean, I can never get an appointment because I'm the worst with like my scheduling.
Yeah, but your barber's good.
Yeah, I mean, I love JD.
Yeah, your barber's good.
But he'll tell you too, I'm the worst.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm scheduling stuff. I'm like, yo, can you get my beard?
Yeah,
so you didn't take that time. I was like, my bad, brother.
Yeah, shout out to JD though, because he goes way back with us too, which is funny. JD just never really struggled with drugs.
I talked to him about it the other day.
Yeah, he's just been like a normal guy. He's always been like a good dude. Yeah. You know. But yeah, so you know the shop. Shout out to the men's club. They took a huge chance on me. I was so early in, you know, recovery, and they saw me from what they knew. The version of me they knew was like body, and it kind of just blew up. You know, like from there, I was always into you know, the photography side of things, the video side of things, and so early on doing the, you know, this type of stuff. You know, not podcasts, but videos, still shots,
content.
Content. And I did a video with this guy Greg on YouTube, and it got like a bunch of views.
That was like the first.
It was like 6 years ago.
Danny Bennett.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So I did a video with Danny, and then I did a video with Greg, and that video was on Beard Brand's YouTube channel.
Okay.
And excuse me, sorry. So it got like 5 million views on YouTube. So like it just shot up. Like I gained all these followers on Instagram, I gained all these clients, and then from there, you know, it just like the cutting just took off, dude. It was crazy. It went from being like, oh yeah, Jake's cutting hair, to like, oh yeah, Jake the barber. You know that? Yeah, I know Jake the barber. He cuts my hair. You know, it's crazy. It was just like a light switch.
Yeah.
Really insane. And like that wasn't a plan. It wasn't the plan.
No, you were just trying to grow your current book of business, probably.
That's it. It was nuts, dude. It's crazy how that happened. I wish that I could sit there and be like, this is all part of my plan. You know, it wasn't. It just happened. It was really crazy. It was really crazy how it happened.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when the video dropped, and I was like, this is like phenomenal, because Justin did one too.
Justin did one too with Danny. Me and Justin did one with Danny. It was like days apart. Okay. Everyone, I put it on Facebook, and I was like, yo, can I, friends and family share this? Got like, 20,000 views on Facebook. Now, without a platform or anything.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa, like that's crazy. Like people really support. And then it started to get busy. And Justin was doing videos with Beard Brand at the time. They reached out to me. They're like, yo, we want to do a video with you too. And I was growing on Instagram and stuff. Like the social media stuff was starting to pick up. At this time, Instagram was easy to grow. Now it's very hard on Instagram. But when I did that video with Beard Brand, it just then it was just like, it was already on like a uptick, and then it just like took off.
It just took off.
Yeah. And it got crazy, dude. And my schedule filled out, and like it really became something. And I was like, whoa, this is crazy. Because it went from, cutting hair, and you think of like being a barber, you're like, oh, it's a cool job. And then it was like, it got really cool. I was flying to different cities. I was doing education.
Yeah, you're doing classes out there.
Yeah, I was doing classes with this guy, Jay. I did some stuff with Beard Brand. I flew to Texas a couple times. I filmed content out there. I did a couple events with them. But it's just kind of crazy from like cutting hair, being a junkie, then like learning how to cut hair, and then like doing crazy stuff with like cutting. It's really weird the way life worked out. But like I said, man, like it wasn't by plan or anything. It just happened.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure you heard this stuff, or the rumblings, right, in high school, like, oh, that Jake Hunter, I don't want you hanging out with him.
Yeah. I was the kid that people were not allowed to hang with.
And I was like, bad. Nah. Yeah. I was like, Mom, it's just Jake, dude. It's
same
it's
thing.
Not me.
Yeah, same thing. Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, and like that's the deal, right? Like we're not supposed to be here.
No. No. It's funny. It's not funny. It's sad. Like people we grew up with that their parents said that about people like me and you. Oh, I don't want you hanging out with them. They're bad news. And you turn around and like they're reaching out to us to like help them with their kid. And it's crazy. And it's almost like more fuel to my fire to keep going and keep being, clean, sober, however you want to call it, whatever verbiage you use. Because sometimes, it gets heavy, like we can't, you have everyday struggles, you have family, you have kids, you have, significant others, people die, people come in and go, you get fired, you leave a job, whatever. But we can't just crack a beer and like unwind, or we can't just smoke a little joint and feel whatever. It gets heavy, dude. It gets heavy. And people look at us and they're like, oh, yeah, you messed your life up though. That was your choice and this and that. It's just like, yo, I wish you would try to walk in my shoes. It's hard, dude. It's hard. You know?
I used to say it all the time. It's like, do you really think that I woke up one day?
I wanted to mess my life up?
I'm going to burn this shit
Yeah,
out.
Let me just blow this light. Yeah. Let me throw a wrench in my life.
By the time that I actually realized like what I was battling,
too late.
I was way too deep.
You're withdrawn already. You're sick. You're physically and mentally addicted to drugs already, and you don't even know. It's crazy, bro. It's horrible.
So you talked about Brett, and you talked about Brett getting sober, right? Yeah. And like Brett, like completely recreated his life.
Yeah.
Right. Like
briefly,
and like, well, yeah, but like in a hurry. You know, like next thing you know, he was moved out.
Yeah. So actually, Brett got kicked out. He was 21.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he got kicked out because he was nuts, as you know.
You low-key were like,
I was happy.
That's right.
I was happy because he was crazy. Dude, he was nuts. So he got kicked out at 21. He was like really drunk and took the family dog and went somewhere. And I was at a girlfriend's house and I get a call. And I'm like, what does he want? It's like 11. You know what I mean? I'm like, what's up? And he's like, hey, I need you to come pick me up. I'm like, Brett, I don't have a car. I don't own a car. So what do you want me to do? He's like, I got Rocky. And I was like, why do you have the family dog, dude? Why do you, I call my mom. I was like, your son has the family dog and he's hammered and it's 11 a.m. And she was like, oh, whatever, so she comes home. This was like the last straw. This was a series of events.
Yeah.
And I was still using at the time. He was still using at the time. So then he gets kicked out. And it was hard for my mom because my mom was like, I can't even, because his thing was alcohol. And if you know Brett, and I mean, we could go into 100 situations involving me, you, and Brett growing up that were like scary for me and you. There was times where you had to protect me against my own brother because he was hammered. And like, that's a whole other story.
Yeah.
But she was like, listen, I can't, you're 240 pounds. You're like a wrecking ball. You put holes in everything, know? So, Brett got kicked out and he was living in like Perkiomen Valley or some place for like a year. And I remember he called me. Now, Brett had a gun. Brett had a gun and he was a drunk and he was 22. And I remember he called me and was crying and was like, I'm going to do it, whatever. I'm like, and I was using and I was like sky high and I lost my shit on him. I'm like, you got to fucking get your life together, and I'm giving him life advice. He listened.
Yeah.
He listened and he got sober and went to start going to meetings. It was like 10 days. And I remember he told me, he's like, yo, man, he showed up at my house, at my mom's house. And I was with Mike Mack, and I was like, dude, I was on one. Dunzo. Like, he was like, yo, what's your deal? And I'm like, oh, it's just fun and games. You know what I mean? I'm like, I'm just having fun.
Just Molly.
Yeah. So I reached out to him a couple days later. He had 2 weeks sober at the time when I got clean. And he gave me like the directory to my first meeting. I went to the Plymouth Meeting Mall meeting Tuesday night. I think I had a day clean or 2 days, whatever it was. But yeah, so he is like a huge part of me getting clean, if not the main part. And then, he was kind of telling me like, yeah, Woods is sober, Wallace, all those dudes, like there's a bunch of people that like we grew up with or went to high school with that are in this like community, right? So, start going to meetings and then, fast forward, we went through all that, right? Like I started cutting hair and this and that. At this point, I cut you, I cut Brett, I cut a whole bunch of people, all our friends, right? And then he had, it was probably a year. And I remember at my 1 year anniversary, you were there. Brett was there, we were all sober. And I want to say you had just came back or I want to say you just came back and were there for good, there to stay.
Might have been, yeah.
Yeah. And because Brett was there, he had a year. And Mike was there, everyone was there. And then Brett relapsed a couple months later. And then, it wasn't long. And then, I got that call that he died. Life got heavy.
Yeah.
That's what happens when you use, and like he was like my hero. He was our, that was our guy, bro. Like that was, my older brother, one of your best friends in the entire world. Like that was our guy.
Yeah.
And he used, and I think that really shook our world a lot. And I remember that funeral was tough. That was hard. And I didn't cry. I didn't cry at all because I felt like I couldn't,
Probably so much going. I mean,
It was just, my head was spinning. And I was a year and a half clean at the time. And it was like, I just got into my career, and yeah, dude, like that was like our first like real, and Chiclet was there. Chiclet was at Brett's funeral. That was our first like real close to home death,
Yeah.
And
I'll never forget that because obviously a lot of the people that we grew up with were there.
Yeah.
Right, there were some people there that like just didn't look well.
Right.
But I remember, I don't know what it's called, receiving line, whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
When I finally got to your mom, she started screaming at me. And like all good things, but like she was essentially saying like, don't let this be you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
it's like
it was
burned in my
heavy.
consciousness.
It was heavy, bro.
Yeah.
It was heavy. That was some serious shit.
Yeah.
And that was like, it sounds crazy. But if that didn't happen, now I'm not saying that I wanted that to happen by any means, but if that didn't happen, I don't think that I would be even remotely close to where I am right now in my life. That propelled me into like, I can't look back. Can't look back now.
No.
So now everything I do is dedicated to him, in one way, shape, or another. It just, I have to. I can't let him down. The same way, he would do anything for me. It's like, he's not here anymore, but, I live like, it's hard to put into words, but like, I just try to act like he's there with me. So anything I do, any venture I do, I try to just incorporate it. And I don't, I brought some of the stuff with me, like the clothing brand Void, right? It's pronounced Void. It's spelled Voxid. The XIII is the Roman numeral 13. Right? So the void is the void that's left, right? But the 13's in there because, he was born October 13th. He always had the 13 and his gamer tags, his fucking sports numbers, everything. He was just 13. He had a huge 13 tattooed on him. And, he was probably the most unlucky person ever. He was so unlucky.
Yeah.
So like 13, it's just funny, right? Like it's like he was just an unlucky dude, And then the hair product brand, Claim 13. Claim, we just thought it would be cool in front of the 13. But the hair product, that kind of ties into my career, right? Like everyone asks me, when are you going to start a product line or do this or do that? I'm like, you know what? And then, so I honor my brother in those ways. It's not rest in peace brand. It's not, it's subtle reminders and a tribute to my older brother. It just kind of gives me a purpose,
Not only does it give you a purpose, but it's also really cool to see how the community around you that you've built supports you, right?
Crazy.
And then,
crazy.
Like there's no doubt in my mind that like Brett still looks over me.
100%. That was
like
your
when
that was
I'm
your
in
boy,
like some
bro.
dark spots, dude. And I've never said this to you, but when I'm in some dark spots, and it never happens like as a conscious thought,
Right,
I'm always usually just driving by them.
Yeah.
Weird. Whatever cemetery that is.
Yeah.
And like I just look over and I'm like, it ain't that deep.
Yeah.
It's really not that deep.
Yeah. Trust me, bro. It's weird how it happens. It'll just happen randomly. I'll find myself in some dark spots. And that's another thing, we live a really great life. We have great life, and sometimes though you drift into like this weird place and it's not for any rhyme or reason. You just find yourself in this dark spot. And I think sometimes I just kind of will give it up and be like, just walk me through this one, bro. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just surrendering myself. Like, it's not to my higher power. It's not to anything. I'll be like, yo, bro, I know you're with me. Just, I'm not going to ask, what would you do? Because it was probably the worst thing ever. But I'm just support, just put your hand on my shoulder, bro. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, everything that that I've done in the more recent years. He died almost 8 years ago. This month will be 8 years. I just dedicated to him, and I asked whatever for just like that little blessing that, and it forces me into like giving it all I got. The hair cutting stuff. I was cutting hair for about a year, a little less than a year. He passed away, and I was like, I'm going to use this to just propel myself into this, right? And then the clothing brand shortly after, and then the hair product, and there's other projects on the way that, of course I'm going to incorporate my brother into these things. But yeah, man, I know he's proud. I know he's proud of both of us. So it's a blessing to be here with you, of all people, because given our history, we were the ones who first did drugs, like with our friends. And Brett was on like a witch hunt for me and you because we were
hated it.
I hated it. It was horrifying. It's scary. It was scary.
Yeah.
And then to, me and you we always were best friends. And then we were enemies briefly. And then we got clean and best friends again. I was in your wedding, bro. Like you were at my brother's funeral right there with me. I was at your wedding, and then full circle, here we are talking about all this stuff at this setup. Like, this is crazy.
Yeah.
This is insane.
Yeah,
talking about
awesome.
brands and, we're talking about the history of our relationship and what happened and how we even got here. Like, this is crazy, bro. It's weird. It's weird.
I mean, again, I said it before in this like episode, but like nothing happens by mistake.
No, but it seems like it. It's like, this is an accident.
Well, when it's like, when we're in it, right? Especially like when we were first getting sober, right? First getting clean.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, this sucks, dude.
Yeah.
Like, what am I really going to do with myself? I think you did a few months at like community college.
I went to Monco and I did prerequisites that didn't count as anything.
You know what I mean? I didn't even do that.
Yeah.
Again, dude, Brett was honor roll.
I know.
Right?
Dude, he got good grades.
Honor roll.
How?
We were both I don't know if you were the whole time, but I
was in second track, but I
was a third stringer all 4 years.
I didn't know. I was good at cheating. I didn't know what I was even looking at. I've always been like really good at manipulation. That's how I graduated. I said I had family problems. My family was fine. You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, I have family problems. I need some extra credit. I didn't do the work in the first place. So, yeah, Brett was honor roll. Like, he was in first track, got honors. Like,
he had the blue thing on.
Dude, it's crazy, bro. Yeah. I don't understand it. My dad was the same way, though. He's smart. He's a smart dude. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think my dad
naturally smart, without having to put the work in. Like, Brett really didn't have to put the work in. He was just naturally smart.
Yeah.
I
remember that.
Yeah. I always had to study a lot, and I still wouldn't, like, pick up what I'm reading. I would read something 10 times. I'm like, I don't know what I just read. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, again, right? Like, those comments that, like, people were like, stay away from that, Jake.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, like, we were not supposed to be here.
No.
And, like, especially, like, being successful, things of that nature. It's just, like, another testament of, like, in recovery, you can be whatever you want.
Sure.
You know? Like, you can literally be or do whatever you want.
I firmly agree with that. And that was another thing early on that I said. And this is, like, it's, I remember seeing people, I came to recovery and I would see people that I was like, I don't want to be like that. But I would see people that have the businesses or, they went on to get the degree. They went on to get the great job. They went on to have a family. I'm like, I want what they have. I don't want to be the guy that hangs out in the church basement and, goes to the diner every weekend. And it's like, listen, no shade on you, but that's not what I want. I want to live my life. And I remember getting, I got some hate early on, not early on, but a couple years in. Because, like, I would take trips. I would go to, clubs and stuff like that. I would go to Miami and people were like, oh, you got to be careful. Like, I'm like, I didn't get clean to be boring. I didn't, and I'm not saying, listen, they say if you hang out at a barbershop, you're going to get your hair cut. I'm not hanging out with people racking lines. You know what I mean? I'm just I like to be out, dude. I like the lights.
Socialize,
I like to to go out. I like to live my life.
Just trying to be a 20-year-old.
I'm just trying to be a dude in my 20s, you know? And because that was taken from me. No, it wasn't taken. I gave it up. I gave it away, right? I wasn't, you know, just like you, we weren't the average 20-something-year-olds. We bought it on the front end. You know what I mean? So
yeah. And that kept me sick for a little bit.
I was jealous.
Because like even before I got sober, right? Like I would get out and then I would go back to the bar because I would see all the people that we grew up with like drinking.
Yep.
And I wanted to just do that
and just show them that you're good now.
Not that person.
No,
you know.
That's another thing. I gotta pull up and show them that I'm good. You know, I gotta show them.
I was so sick.
It's the ego. You know, I gotta show them that I'm killing it. I'm gonna rub shoulders with people I came up with, and I love hearing how proud of me you are. Of course, you're gonna say you're proud of me. You're hammered. I'm so proud of you. You were what does you being proud of me have anything to do with how I feel? Like, of course, dude. Anybody with a couple drinks is gonna tell anybody they're proud of them. It's you know, but you know, when I was in my early 20s and mid 20s, like I wanted to be normal. You know, I knew I wasn't normal enough to have one, right? But I wanted to be normal enough to be in the same room, you know? And I'm not saying like when you go out and you get a couple years, like, yeah, go to the club, do your thing, live your life. I'm saying from my own personal experience, I wanted to live my life a little bit. I wanted to see what's out there. I wanted to, you know, date people that, you know, could drink maybe, or I wanted to go to the club with people that could have a good time. And then, you know, and I don't regret it. I don't regret it. My 20s were sick, and I'm in my 30s now. My 20s were sick. I lived a really cool, sober 20s. It was awesome, dude. I saw all kinds of stuff. I met all kinds of cool people. I met people that should be in the rooms. You know what I mean? I met people that are in the rooms. I met people that aren't. But I definitely didn't get clean, sober, whatever, to be boring. And I'm glad that my life took me on the path that it did. And I also like that I don't really like following the rules, you know, because
you stayed true to
yourself. I stayed true to myself.
There's definitely grade school pictures of you at IHM with
giving the middle finger in the class pic.
Like third, fourth grade.
It was eighth. I was giving the middle finger. They actually had to Photoshop it.
Oh, so you got the original.
I got the OG. Yeah, you can see it. Good. Yeah, you can see it. I never like to, and I'm not saying like rebel. It's cool. Break the law. I'm saying like I like to kind of just walk to the beat of my own drum, and I have for my whole life, and I don't know. Life is good, bro. It's exciting. Life is exciting. It's just like there's so much that life has to offer, and I'm glad that I messed my life up early because I got like a education in just like what not to do, you know, like I really everything that I learned from active addiction and stuff like that is like what not to do, right? Like what not to do in my adult years. It also like showed me how to read people. It also showed me who I was, you know, that I have this like inter-gnawing or pain that I have inside of me that if I don't work on or make a decision daily, that like I'm probably going to be sad at the end of the day. You know what I mean? So I don't necessarily, you know, I don't view being an addict and all such a burden anymore that I used to. Kind of like a weird blessing, but also a curse. It's a blessing, but a curse. Because yeah, dude, would I love to just be like normal and not have to be like, oh, I have to be careful because like if I get high, I could like ruin my life and everyone else's life around me. Yeah, that'd be sick if I didn't have to worry about that. But also, it's such a blessing that we learned what we learned early on because it molded us into who we are today. Truly.
Yeah. I mean, you know, I think about it all the time, right? Like, thank God I did get sober when I did.
No, for sure. Right. Like we talked about that earlier.
But at the same time, it's like
the free education. It wasn't necessarily free. Just co-pays and all that stuff is not free. But
I think my mom swiped the credit card every single time. You know?
Yeah. Shout out to her.
I went so many times.
Yeah, you did go to treatment a lot. Shout out to both of our moms.
And then I wouldn't stay.
Oh, AMA. Yeah, of course. Of course.
Yeah, and unfortunately, like they were right every time. I mean, I was either high or drunk.
Sure.
Shortly thereafter.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, I feel like I sound like a broken record when I say this. Like it's almost like a phrase at this point, but it's just so true. Like you too, right? Like we introduced our families. They had no clue could come into their house. I think at one point I ran away, call it what you want, and lived with you for 2 weeks. My mom had no clue where I was.
Yeah, we spent a lot of time together as kids, bro. Not even kids, like teenagers, like not like kids, but like, dude, you would sleep in my house all the time. You, Chicklet, like we would literally, we'd spend a ton of time together, man.
Yeah.
But it's crazy how opposite, right? Like we're so different. Our families were so different, but like you and I had become brothers, and my brother too. My older brother was like the older brother that we didn't want, that we didn't ask for.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
it's wild, man. So what's the future look like? I mean, there's no way that it's just, get successful cutting hair, right? 13, the brand, right? You as a personal brand, like what, again, as corny as it sounds, I said it on the last episode, but as a whole, like what's the purpose?
What's the purpose of all of it in a nutshell?
Yeah, recovery. What keeps you going?
I can't sit still. I can't. So I have to create some sort of something to do constantly. I don't know if that's a bad thing. I don't know if it's a good thing, but I don't like to sit still. I don't like to sit idle for too long. When you give up drugs, which was our whole world, our obsession and stuff like that, it gets pretty boring. You got to find new ways. And here's the thing. People like us, we can find ways that are not good, to fill our time, that aren't drugs, and that's a whole other conversation. So I might as well make it productive or, beneficial or, financially beneficial or just, whatever. So what's it for? I love it, right? It all kind of falls under the same umbrella, like the clothing, the hair products, the barbering. It's all like fashionable stuff, right? It's not necessarily men's fashion, but it favors the masculine side a little bit. But it's all kind of, you look good, you feel good, so that, as far as why do I do it? Because if I don't, I'll probably do some dumb shit, keep myself busy. As far as the future, what does the future hold for me? I'm going to continue doing this stuff. I'm going to continue with the hair stuff. I have some projects that are in the works right now. I really don't like to give the blueprints until it's
I thought you were going to drop something
on the press. It's on until it's really on the press.
Yeah.
Because if I don't do it, that's a personal thing. It's like an ego thing. I'm like, if I don't do it now, I look stupid.
Yep.
That's my own bullshit that I work through. But there's stuff coming, and I hate to be that guy that like be on the lookout. Stuff
stay tuned.
Stay tuned with the emoji with the little
yeah.
Like I can't. I hate that.
That's me with the podcast.
I'm not. So I'm not going to do it. But there is some bigger things in the works. It all pretty much coincides with what I already have going on. Nothing really out of the blue. But yeah, I'm excited, man. I think 2024, the remainder of 2024 is just crossing the T's, dotting the I's, getting everything in order. I think 25 will really be the next chapter of everything as far as like the brand stuff.
Yeah.
But as far as the recovery stuff or sobriety, clean time, June, I'm coming up on 10 years. So that's cool. I'm really excited about that. Yeah, I'm really just excited, dude. I don't know. I have like that weird, like, that in between 5, in between 10 is just kind of like, 6, 7, 8, and now it's like 10. I'm like, whoa, dude.
It almost feels old. Like a year again.
Dude, that's what I mean. It's like, whoa, I have like this new fire that's lit under me. And it's cool to see that like a lot of my friends are still here. Like people, you, Mike, like, dude, like really important people to me are still here for like a long ass time. You know how it is, like people come and go. So
Yeah.
yeah, hopefully by the time, if we ever do another episode again, hopefully I'll be like, there'll be a third little thing up here, maybe even a fourth that
never know.
Yeah, you never know.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to seeing the growth of this as well. Pain with a Purpose, because this shit is crazy. This setup is fire, dude. So
Good.
nice.
I'm glad it's turning out well.
Yeah, for sure.
I do really appreciate you coming out.
Yeah, so just to quickly touch on
this is a beanie. This keeps your ears warm.
All my stuff on where to find it. This is Void, pronounced Void, spelled Voxid, Voxiiid. Okay, this is in it's in ode to my brother who passed away. The 13 is like we said earlier in the episode. He loved the number 13. The broken heart is because he is dead. Rest in peace. So pretty
people that don't know your humor are gonna be like, oh my god,
yeah, pretty cut and dry. Yeah, no, you know him, bro. He would encourage that sense of humor. And then this is Claim 13. This is our newest product that we released. This is sea salt spray. Claim is just a cool word that we put in front of 13. But yeah, sea salt spray, beachy texture. That is the science behind it. It's kind of like when you go in the ocean and the sun dries out your hair and it gives that gritty finish. We also have a paste. It's a matte paste, and we have a texture powder, if you're familiar with that. And as far as Void, this is just the beanie. We also do hoodies, shirts, and a few other stuff. We actually have a release coming soon. Most of the stuff is going to be sold out on our website. But we do have t-shirts coming, printed on comfort colors. The quality of the shirts are really nice. Claim 13, we have full stocked inventory though. So this is a little more of an exclusive feel. This is up for grabs whenever. We also do wholesale pricing. If you are a salon or barbershop or store owner and want to carry our product, please reach out to us. So you can find us on any of our pages. So my Instagram, my personal Instagram, I have a link tree, Jake_the barber 1. And then I have a link tree. And then for Void, it's just VOXIIID. And for Claim 13, it is C_13.
So, following that up, like, comment, subscribe.
Yeah, smash that like button.
Smash that like button. IG, we're at Pain W Purpose. That would be at Pain W Purpose. YouTube, Pain with a Purpose podcast, and Apple and Spotify, Pain with a Purpose. So really appreciate you guys tuning in. Again, really appreciate you, coming out, making the trip. More to come. More life, right? I feel like that. Is that a thing? More life?
What's that guy? Aubrey? Drake? I think.
No Diddy, yeah.
Drake. Yeah, I think he said that.
So cool. I appreciate it, man. And we'll see you guys next week.